Hey, welcome to On the Clock, a collaboration between the Pack-A-Day Podcast and the Draft Fellows. I'm Andrew Murtick. That is Kyle Fellows. Together, we are the Draft Fellows. Over the next few months, we'll be doing a series that covers picks 1 through 32, the team's biggest needs, and who they may be considering at their pick. You can check out the video version of all 32 episodes on the Draft Fellows channel on YouTube. You can also check out the audio version on the Pack-A-Day channel. And make sure you're checking out our other content surrounding roster building the NFL draft on Draft Fellows throughout the year. Kyle, we're on pick 9.
We're on pick 9, and you nailed the intro. I'm really proud of you. If you've been following along, the last couple, Andrew just kind of stumbled through the beginning there, but we nailed it today, and we are on to pick number 9. And these New Orleans Saints are on the clock, and they are looking at a couple of significant roster needs. They could go a lot of different directions, but wide receiver is definitely something that a lot of people are talking about. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed had nice seasons in 2024. Unfortunately, both of those seasons ended prematurely with injury, and both are playing on their last year of their deals now in 2025. So could look to upgrade at wide receiver. The tight end position has some notable names there in New Orleans, but none that seriously moves the needle, I don't think, right? Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill are on the last years of their deals in 2025, and Juwan Johnson is a free agent this offseason. So a lot of change coming there at tight end. On the defensive line, I knew that the defensive line was a need for the New Orleans Saints. I had no idea it was as bad. I didn't know it was this big of a need. I had no idea it was in as rough a shape as it actually is. In 2024, I guess Brian Brzee led this defensive line unit in snaps this season and graded as the 114th best defensive lineman in the league out of 118. So 114 out of 118. And Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders were not much better than Brian Brzee. So that just lays the groundwork for understanding this is one of the worst defensive line rooms probably in the NFL. So they could go a lot of different ways, but whether it's here at 9 or somewhere else in the draft, the defensive line is going to be something that they have to drop a couple of players in to make this team competitive on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think if you start looking at trade options, New Orleans is probably the last realistic of these teams to trade up for a quarterback. How with how cap strapped they are and are going to be for the next several seasons, this is probably one of their few chances to get a difference maker under center right now. But I can't imagine that has to be the most urgent priority. Kellen Moore has been around with a lot of teams, so we don't necessarily know what his pattern of roster building is, but I can't imagine a team would be really excited to drop a really highly invested rookie quarterback into a situation where he's not going to be surrounded by a ton of really high level talent. So some of the players, if the Saints stay at pick 9, you're talking about Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan, Penn State tight end Tyler Warren, because you mentioned about all the tight end upheaval that they have. Maybe even Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, if they're looking for more of a move tight end. Recently, he's been getting talked about again in this upper echelon of the draft. Michigan defensive lineman Kenneth Grant with that huge defensive line need. Like Kenneth Grant is like replacing 2 players. And, Ed Shmar Stewart is a fun fit there who can play certainly on the edge, but maybe also kick inside a little bit as well. But here's a wild card for you, Kyle. What if this is a quarterback landing spot, but not Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward? What if this is Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart? I mean, we did not see Michael Penix going where he went last year. I was not particularly high on Bo Nix, seeing him go in the 1st round. We've seen quarterbacks get pushed way up the board. So, maybe this is the landing spot that we just don't see quarterback come in, but probably not.
Andrew told me he was going to do something stupid in this episode. And
did I say stupid?
He didn't say stupid. He said I wouldn't like it. The crazy thing is Andrew and we're still working through building our own like boards and rankings and all those kinds of things. We're just kind of hovering around the combine time. I don't know exactly when this episode's going to drop. We're going to learn a lot, But Andrew doesn't know that I actually do really like Jackson Dart. I don't know if I would take him at 9, but I actually think that there is a world where Jackson Dart ends up being a really good NFL quarterback. I think there's lots of reasons we don't know if that will happen. I think there's a lot of projection in that. But this is Andrew's getting a little spicy here, throwing out the possibility of a quarterback at 9 that's not one of the top
Yeah,
two, and
I
I'm here
think when
for
you,
it.
I think you accidentally said Jackson Dart will be a good pro when you meant Jalen Milroe. But go on. Now's the part of the show where we talk about what our prediction is for the Saints pick.
Oh geez. Okay. I'm looking forward to that quarterback episode when we get to it down the road.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that'll be fun. So it's hard because I set myself up with this conversation around the defensive line. And so it's really hard for me to not go in that direction. But the wide receiver need and value here, especially with the Kellen Moore connection, is just so obvious. And you see it in a lot of mocks right now. So this isn't like, I'm not breaking a ton of ground here, but Tetairoa McMillan makes too much sense to pass on for me in this situation. He's just a good complement to Olave. He gives Kellen more weapons and a path to success on the offensive side of the ball. And I think we know that like Kellen Moore has to understand that this Saints team is not super good, but this is his shot at making it as an NFL coach. So giving himself, by advocating for a pick like this, the opportunity to find success and say, okay, we can make this work early, I think is in his best interest. But T-Mac can be that kind of big target that makes quarterbacks right even when they're not. And if the Saints are kind of stuck in this world with Derek Carr for the immediate future, adding a talent like McMillan might be the move to help get the offense going in the immediate future as they're trying to find some success here. So I'm going to go with T-Mac here at 9.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, if the Saints surround Derek Carr with enough talent, maybe the offensive line gels a little bit more than they have in the previous season or two. With a healthy Alvin Kamara, if Olave, Shaheed can come back, adding McMillan, this offense could be pretty good. And in the NFC South, this is the Saints team that could be competitive. So
Yeah.
I like what you did there. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball and go with Michigan defensive lineman Kenneth Grant. And I know some people think this is too early. I do not. At 340 pounds, he just shouldn't be the kind of athlete that he is. So there's a massive floor as an elite run stopper, but a super fun upside if he develops as more than just a pocket pusher as a pass rusher. And where has new head coach Kellen Moore seen someone like that before? Jordan Davis just this past year in Philadelphia. But I think, like, seriously, Kenneth Grant could be a Casey Hampton, Haloti Ngata style of defensive tackle that is impactful in all phases of the game. And I think this is a really great spot to find him. And he's overshadowed by Mason Graham at Michigan. But I think in the NFL, he's really going to set himself apart. So I think that's a really nice match of fit and talent.
I like that a lot. And I felt like you said, like we've kind of talked about, like maybe 9's a little early. I just don't know in this draft class if it really is. If you have a need at defensive line, Kenneth Grant is a stud. And like if he wasn't at Michigan, maybe he even gets a little bit more buzz because it kind of feels like you're taking the second guy in that defense, which is totally insane that Michigan had Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. And I don't know if a lot of people really appreciated that combination fully when they were playing together. I think you do when you go back and look at the tape, but a massive guy that would fill a massive need for this New Orleans Saints team in 2025 and going forward. So I like that move a lot. But the Saints, again, another team that's going to be fascinating to watch. How do they navigate the board? Do they stay where they are and pick a player that we've discussed here, go in a completely different direction? We won't know until April. But thanks for joining us for another episode of On the Clock. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show and stick with us as we preview all 32 teams in this series leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellows have got you covered. Until next time, stay tuned and stay in the game.